everyone, and welcome to the continued saga of the critical race theory presentation for weeks 4 and 5 of our class. This is going to be part 5. Well, it is part 5. And the focus then is going to be on differential racialization. Let's start with what we mean by differential racialization. The idea is that dominant groups and social discourses racialize groups in different ways at different times. This is from your reading. The core of this idea is that members of different racial categories, different quote-unquote races, are treated differently across time. So why and how would this happen? Well, because race is socially constructed, meanings assigned to different groups are changed over time as it benefits those in power. A good example has to do with Japanese immigrants and when they first started immigrating to the country in order to work on the railroad. And one of the reasons that this happened was because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, where Chinese immigrants were barred from entering the county because it was believed that they were, quote unquote, taking jobs away from Americans, white Americans. So initially, the Japanese immigrants were viewed fairly benignly. And then over time, the Japanese Americans, who were not called Americans at the time, started to establish communities, to settle down, to enter other industries such as farming. So as this was happening, there was a growing anti-Japanese sentiment. And of course, this sort of rhetoric and racism culminated in the internment of Japanese Americans as ordered by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in his executive order to have Japanese Americans, mostly citizens, be removed from their homes, have all of their property essentially taken away and distributed to others. Meanwhile, they were being carted off literally into what were the concentration camps, not to be confused with the Holocaust that had death camps. That's a conceptualization that I've started using after hearing Mitch Maki talk about Japanese internment. These were concentration camps. After World War II, when Japanese Americans began reestablishing communities, there was a movement toward getting redress for and reparations for the internment. This movement took many, many years, and eventually in the 80s, under Ronald Reagan administration, reparations and redress were made. So the movement was successful. And during this time, the sentiment toward Japanese Americans was starting to change. So here you can see a Newsweek cover story about Asian Americans, the drive to excel, and Japanese Americans being part of that group, which is quite different than the propaganda during World War II, such as this poster, which says, "If you worked hard and as fast as a Jap, we'd smash Tokyo a lot quicker." So this stereotyping of being, a hard worker when it comes to learning and education was viewed negatively at one time period and then viewed as amazing and awe-inspiring and worthy of American identity, as we can see in this Time article. So the concept of the model minority started to gain ground during this time period where certain Asian Americans, and not all, but certain, including Japanese Americans, were viewed as the model minority. We'll talk about in class about how this is a complete myth, but it has important implications. And even though it's supposed to be something positive and what have you, there is, as we can see, still an underlying sort of stereotyping in a negative way in terms of what it takes in order to be considered a whiz kid, and etc. Among Japanese Americans. So Japanese Americans over time have been racialized differently, being viewed benignly, negatively, and then now positively. We can see this with other groups of people too, which we will talk about in class. So here are the sources of all the images that I used, and this is the end of part 5. So we only have 2 more to go, and here's a cartoon for differential racialization. So it's 2 kids. One of them says, "I'm confused, Lindley. I said you're good at math and you're not offended." And Lindley says, "No, because it's true. You never said all Asians are great at math." And then he continues to say all African Americans aren't good at playing basketball. And then the other little boy says, "True, but I'm amazing at it." I like this cartoon, one, because it shows a really positive self-esteem, which I really like as a parent. But two, it really shows the difference between what a stereotype is and the belief about an individual person you may know. So in any case, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.